You brought your kid to a Christmas blind date?
The woman in the silver dress said, loud enough for the velvet rope line to hear. No wonder you got rejected. The single dad didn't flinch. He tightened his grip on the small mittened hand beside him, eyes flicking past the chandelier glow to the polished marble that hid a humming nervous system beneath. By the way, where are you watching from? Tell me in the comments below. The matchmaking CEO smiled like she was offering mercy, not a verdict, and the room followed her lead. Soft laughs, quick glances, phones angled for a discreet clip. Staff in black uniforms shifted closer, ready to escort him back to wherever men like him belonged. He only breathed out once, slow and controlled, as if he were listening to something nobody else could hear. Because the truth was, the building was already warning them. The Hartwell Grand Hotel wore Christmas-like armor, pine scent, gold ribbon, a towering tree that made donors feel generous. Vivian Hartwell owned the spectacle. Her logo glittered above the lobby, promising love curated for the exceptional, and tonight the cameras were already hungry. Down near the base of the tree, the maintenance workers' boots carried melted sleet from the service entrance. Not dirt, just the world outside that privilege couldn't seal out. He stood straighter anyway, calm but unshakable. The boy beside him tried to copy that calm, blinking fast, when the laughing got louder. He told himself he was here for a new beginning. Not just romance, but proof his life wasn't only double shifts and lonely dinners. Yet the moment Vivian's gaze landed on the child, her expression tightened like family was a flaw. "Sir," she said, voice smooth, "this event is for vetted guests. You're on the service list." The dismissal landed in public, where dignity mattered most. His son's fingers squeezed. "Dad, did we do something bad?" "No," he murmured. "We didn't." Vivian flicked her fingers. Two security staff stepped forward. Adrian Cole didn't argue. He didn't plead. That was the contrarian part. No scrambling, no apology, just a steady gaze that refused to shrink. He kept his body between his son and the stranger's, breathing slow. He wasn't thinking about pride. He was thinking about the boy's bedtime routine, the night terrors that came after his mother died, the way small humiliations could stick like thorns. Elias Crown, the hotel's general manager, hurried over with a smile stretched thin. "Miss Hartwell, we can handle it." Vivian didn't spare him a glance. "Please do." Elias turned to Adrian, voice lowered. "This isn't the place for—" His eyes flicked to the child. "For this. I'll have someone take you through staff access." "We're leaving," Adrian said evenly. "Don't touch him." A guard reached for Adrian's wrist, a guiding grip meant to steer. Adrian shifted half a step. The hand met empty air. The movement was small, controlled, almost polite, yet it carried the certainty of training. Vivian's brows rose, irritation flashing before she masked it. "If you're here to fix something," she said sweetly, "wait in the service corridor like everyone else." Adrian's gaze drifted to the VIP elevator bank. A red indicator blinked once, then again, warnings most guests would ignore. He felt a faint vibration through the marble, an uneven whine under the carols. He'd learned this building's normal sounds in 3 months of night shifts. Tonight, something was off. He lowered his eyes to Noah. "Stay close." "Are we going home?" the boy asked, voice thin. "Soon," Adrian promised, and the promise carried weight. Elias started to steer them toward the service door. Then the atrium lights hiccuped. Once, twice, and the air changed as the ventilation stuttered. Somewhere above, metal groaned, low and unhappy, threading under laughter like a warning nobody wanted to understand. Vivian's assistant glanced at her tablet. "Miss Hartwell, we've got a—" A sharp alarm chirped, cut off, then chirped again, louder. Vivian's smile faltered. "Not now," she snapped, eyes darting toward the cameras. Adrian stopped walking, his head tilted, listening, calculating. And for the first time all night, the people around him looked at the maintenance worker like he might matter, because the building had finally started speaking in a language he understood. Load, shear, sway, truths that didn't care who wore designer heels. Years ago, he'd stood in government hallways with hard hats and blueprints, fixing buildings everyone swore were fine until they weren't. He'd walked away from that prestige for his son, trading titles for tool belts and bedtime stories. Another groan rolled overhead. Closer now, Noah flinched, eyes darting toward the side hall with the painted reindeer leading to the kids' lounge. Adrian's throat tightened. "Elias," he said, quiet but sharp. "Where's the nearest emergency shutoff for the luxury wing now?" "Elias," he said again, voice low, steady. "Where's the nearest emergency shutoff for the luxury wing now?" The general manager hesitated, eyes darting to Vivian. She was already shaking her head. Smile forced back into place as donors shifted, uneasy, pretending nothing was wrong. "Sir," Elias said, forcing cheer, "this isn't your concern. Please escort him out." Another vibration rolled through the floor, sharper this time. Glassware chimed. Noah's fingers dug into his sleeve. "I hear it too," the boy whispered. He knelt, bringing his face level. "Cover your ears if it gets loud. Don't move unless I say." Vivian scoffed. "We're not indulging theatrics from maintenance. This is a live event." The lights flickered again. Somewhere above them, something banged, metal on metal. Not festive at all. A technician jogged over, breathless. "Ms. Hartwell, the sensors on the East Luxury Wing just spiked. We might need to handle it quietly," she snapped. "The broadcast's rolling." He straightened. "If you don't reroute power in the next 2 minutes, you're risking a cascade failure." Silence snapped tight. Heads turned. Elias stared at him like he'd spoken another language. Vivian laughed, sharp. "And you know this how?" "Because the load distribution's uneven," he said. "You've over-decorated the mezzanine, and the temporary rigs are pulling against an older support grid." "I flagged it last week." Elias blinked. "You filed that report?" "It's in your inbox," he said. "Unread." The floor shuddered, harder. A scream cut through the carols near the kids' lounge hallway. That did it. The room fractured. Donors murmuring, phones coming out, the assistant whispering urgently. Vivian's composure cracked, just enough. "Fine," she hissed. "If something happens, it's on you." He didn't wait for permission. He moved, fast but controlled, guiding Noah toward the wall where the vibrations were weakest. "Stay here," he said, pressing the boy's back against the stone. "Eyes on me." He straightened and headed for the service corridor, boots pounding as alarms finally woke up, red strobes bleeding into the gold decor. Elias followed, breath hitching. "Where are you going?" "Saving your hotel." Behind them, Vivian shouted orders that tangled and died in the noise. The service corridor smelled like oil and pine cleaner. Familiar, grounding. He reached the control panel and yanked it open, hands moving without hesitation. The hum was wrong. Too high, too strained. "Elias," he said, not looking back, "call engineering and tell them to stay off the East Wing feeds. If they override me, people get hurt." Elias swallowed. "Who are you?" "Someone who listens to buildings." A scream echoed from the kids' lounge. Noah's. His chest tightened. He punched commands, rerouting load, dumping non-essential systems. The lights dimmed everywhere except emergency strips. The vibration eased, then surged again. Angry. "Not enough," he muttered. Vivian burst into the corridor, heels slipping. "This is insane. You're shutting down my event." He turned, eyes hard. "Your event doesn't matter right now." The words landed heavy. Cameras followed her, then him. The power imbalance tilted, just a degree. Another bang. A door jammed somewhere above. "East Wing's locking down," a voice shouted. Noah's cry cut through it all. "Dad." He was already moving. "If this is gripping you so far, subscribe now. You won't want to miss what happens when truth collides with power." He ran, service stairs 2 at a time, lungs burning, counting steps mapping the structure in his head. Years peeled back. Titles meant nothing here. Only physics and people. The kid's lounge door was half shut, jammed. He braced, shoulder biting into metal, and shoved. It gave with a scream of hinges. Inside, chaos. Children crying, staff frozen. A ceiling panel sagged, dust raining down. "Everyone against the wall," he shouted. "Now." They moved because his voice left no room for doubt. He crossed to Noah, scooped him up, heart hammering. "I've got you." A crack split overhead. He pivoted, shielding the boy as debris crashed where they'd stood seconds before. Outside, the hotel groaned, wounded but holding. Vivian appeared in the doorway, pale now, seeing what her money couldn't stop. He met her eyes once, breath ragged. "This is what you ignored." And for the first time, she had nothing to say. The ceiling finished settling with a long, exhausted sigh, dust drifting down like dirty snow. For a moment, the kids' lounge went quiet except for crying and the distant wail of alarms threading through the hotel. He held Noah tight, one arm wrapped solid around the small back, feeling the tremor ease beneath his boots. The building wasn't happy, but it wasn't giving up yet. "Everyone okay?" he called out. A chorus of shaky answers came back. One staff member nodded, wide-eyed, clutching a walkie-talkie like it might save her. Vivian stood frozen in the doorway, her silver dress dulled by dust, lipstick a sharp wrong line against her pale face. The cameras that had followed her hesitated now, unsure which story they were supposed to tell. "Elias," he said, voice firm, "get these kids out through the west stairwell. No elevators." Slowly, Elias snapped out of it, finally moving. "You heard him," he barked, authority cracking through panic. "Single file. Stay calm." Vivian blinked. "Him?" Another vibration rippled through the floor, lighter than before, like a warning tap. He felt it through his knees, through muscle memory older than this job. "The loads redistributed," he said, eyes scanning the ceiling joints. "But the east wing's still compromised. You've got temporary rigs pulling against original supports. If one more surge hits—" "What surge?" Vivian cut in, grasping for control. "We shut down non-essential systems." "You shut down what you were told to," he replied. "Not what matters." She stared at him, lips parting. "Explain, now." He adjusted Noah on his hip, grounding himself before answering. "Your gala decorations added weight where the structure was never reinforced. The old blueprints account for seasonal loads, not this. I warned management." Elias flinched. "You did." Vivian's gaze snapped to Elias, fury flashing. "You said everything was cleared." There were a lot of reports," he stammered. The truth hung there, ugly and undeniable. Another alarm blared, closer now, and a voice crackled over the intercom. Strained. "East wing pressure spike. Repeat. Pressure spike." Noah whimpered, burying his face in his shoulder. He tightened his grip, heart thudding. "I need access to the main control hub," he said. "Not the public one. The service core." Vivian shook her head, instinctive denial. "That area's restricted. So is gravity," he shot back. "It doesn't care." A donor shoved his way into the hall, face flushed. "What is going on?" "My wife's stuck upstairs." "She shouldn't be," he said, already moving. "If you evacuated when you were told, you'd be halfway down by now." The man bristled, but another tremor rattled the walls, cutting off any retort. Vivian watched him take command, directing staff, reading the building like a living thing, and something shifted behind her eyes. Not humility yet. Calculation. "Fine," she said tightly. "Do it. But if this damages my property—" He stopped, finally turning fully to her. "People aren't property." The cameras caught that. A few staff exchanged looks. They moved through the service corridors, alarms painting the walls red. He set Noah down with a trusted staffer at the stairwell landing, kneeling briefly. "Count the steps," he told him softly. "Just like at home. I'll be right behind you." The boy nodded, brave through fear, and started counting aloud as he was guided away. Something in his chest loosened, just enough. At the control hub, he ripped open panels, fingers flying. Screens flickered, data scrolling too fast for most eyes. He slowed it, isolating feeds, mapping stress points. Vivian hovered, heals useless here. You're not just guessing, are you? He didn't look up, no. Elias swallowed. Where did you learn this? A memory flashed. Hard hats, late nights, a different life traded for bedtime stories. He pushed it away. Doesn't matter, he said. What matters is timing. A warning siren screamed. He slammed a final command, diverting load away from the failing support. The vibration eased. The building exhaled. For a beat, nobody spoke. Then the intercom crackled again. Pressure stabilizing. East wing holding. A shaky cheer rose from somewhere below. Vivian's shoulders sagged, relief punching through arrogance. She leaned against the wall, breath unsteady. You saved it. No, he corrected. I saved the people in it. The distinction landed hard. Footsteps thundered as security and emergency crews flooded the corridor. Cameras followed, hungry again. But the story had changed. A reporter pushed forward. Ma'am, is it true a maintenance worker identified the failure? Vivian's mouth opened and closed. She looked at him, really looked, seeing the oil-stained gloves, the calm that hadn't cracked even when the ceiling did. Her voice came out quieter. Yes. The word echoed louder than any alarm. He glanced toward the stairwell, listening for a familiar small voice counting steps, grounding himself in numbers. The crisis wasn't over, but the balance had shifted, and everyone could feel it. Emergency crews poured through the service corridor, radios barking over one another, boots slapping concrete. The hotel felt bruised now, stripped of its festive confidence. Lights dimmed to a functional glow. He stepped back from the control hub, hands finally still, listening for the sound that mattered most. Dad, Noah's voice echoed from the stairwell. Relief hit hard, almost buckling his knees. He turned just as the boy barreled into him, arms locking tight around his waist. He crouched, holding on longer than necessary, breathing in the familiar shampoo scent that steadied him. I counted, Noah said quickly. All the way to 92. You did great, he murmured. I knew you would. Around them, people watched, staff, responders, donors who'd never noticed him before. Some looked grateful. Some looked confused. A few looked embarrassed. Vivian stood apart from the cluster, dust still clinging to her dress. The confidence she'd worn like armor earlier had cracked, replaced by something unsettled. She cleared her throat, reclaiming her posture as cameras drifted closer. We'll be issuing a statement, she said, voice regaining polish. A temporary systems malfunction was handled swiftly thanks to him, a staffer cut in, pointing without thinking. A hush followed. Vivian's jaw tightened. Elias stepped forward, sweating through his suit. It's true. He flagged the risk days ago. I didn't escalate it. The words landed like dropped glass. Murmurs rippled outward, donors whispering, phones rising again. Vivian's gaze snapped to Elias, then back to the maintenance worker holding his child. We'll discuss this privately, she said sharply. No, he replied, calm but immovable. We won't. The refusal was soft, but it carried. A reporter pushed closer. Sir, can you tell us your name? He hesitated, instinctively glancing down at Noah. Cameras meant exposure, and exposure meant risk. But silence now would let the story twist back into something safer for the people who'd caused it. Adrian, he said simply. And your role here? Maintenance supervisor. The reporter blinked. Yet you coordinated a structural reroute. He shrugged, not defensive, not boastful. I listened when the building spoke. Vivian laughed. Brittle. That's poetic, but let's not romanticize. You ignored the report, he cut in, eyes steady, because it threatened your event. a collective intake of breath. The cameras loved conflict, and this was clean. Undeniable. Elias swallowed hard. The email timestamp proves it. Vivian's face flushed. Enough. This isn't the time. It was the time, he said. When people were at risk. Noah shifted, sensing the tension. He tightened his hold, grounding himself again. Emergency personnel announced the structure was stable enough for evacuation to continue. Donors were ushered out, coats pulled tight, whispers trailing behind them. Some paused to nod at him. One woman pressed her lips together, eyes shining, and mouthed, "Thank you." As the crowd thinned, the power imbalance grew starker. Without an audience to perform for, Vivian looked smaller, though no less sharp. "You embarrassed me," she said quietly, stepping closer. He met her gaze. "You embarrassed yourself?" Her breath caught. For a moment, anger flared, hot and reflexive. Then it dimmed, replaced by calculation again. "What do you want?" she asked. He glanced at Noah. Accountability and safety. That's vague. "It's specific," he said. "You stop pretending class determines competence. You listen when people who know the building speak. And you don't humiliate working parents for existing." Silence stretched. Elias shifted uncomfortably. "There will be an investigation." Vivian's eyes flicked to him, then back. "I'll handle it." "No," Elias said, surprising them both. "You won't. I'll step aside." She stared. "You can't be serious." He nodded, resolve hardening. "I should have listened. I didn't." The admission cracked something open. A few staff straightened, relief mixing with fear. Vivian inhaled slowly. "Fine. Interim measures will be taken." He knew a half measure when he heard one. Emergency lights flickered to full power. The building settled into a quieter hum. Wounded but stable. He knelt to Noah again. "We're going home soon." The boy nodded, eyes tired but bright. "You were brave." He smiled faintly. "So were you." Vivian watched the exchange, something unreadable crossing her face. The cameras had mostly moved on, chasing aftermath elsewhere. Here, in the service corridor meant for labor, not leadership, the real reckoning hovered. "You're wasted down here," she said abruptly. "Someone with your abilities could do more." He stood, shoulders squared. "I already did." For the first time, she didn't have a retort. As they walked toward the exit, boots echoing on concrete, he felt the weight of what had shifted. The crisis had exposed more than a failing structure. It had peeled back a system built on assumptions. And it wasn't done yet. The cold outside hit harder than expected, slicing through the lingering heat of adrenaline as the service exit door swung shut behind them. Snow dusted the alley, soft and indifferent, while emergency lights painted the brick walls in slow pulses of red. He adjusted Noah's coat, fingers steady again. "You okay?" The boy nodded, eyes heavy but alert. "Are we in trouble?" He huffed a quiet breath. "No, we did what we had to." Behind them, the hotel doors burst open and shut as responders moved in and out, voices overlapping, authority finally loud where it mattered. The Hartwell Grand loomed above, regal and wounded, stripped of some illusion it had worn too long. Footsteps clicked closer, sharper than boots on concrete. Vivian emerged into the cold, a coat draped over her shoulders now, elegance rearranged but not gone. The alley wasn't meant for her kind of power, and it showed. "Wait," she said. He stopped, not out of obedience, but awareness. "I owe you," she continued. Words clipped, practiced. What happened in there shouldn't have escalated the way it did. "That's one way to say it," he replied evenly. She glanced at Noah, hesitation flickering. "I didn't realize. The child. You saw him," he said. "You just didn't see him." The truth landed without cruelty. It didn't need it. Vivian exhaled, breath fogging the air. "There will be questions. Media. Investors. I need to understand exactly how close we came to a catastrophe. You were seconds from it, he said. And if the kid's lounge ceiling had gone another inch. He stopped. Noah was listening. Vivian swallowed. I want a full report. I already wrote one, he said. You ignored it. Silence stretched, broken only by a distant siren. She nodded once. Then write it again. This time, it'll be read. He studied her, searching for sincerity beneath damage control. What he saw was something messier. Fear, pride, and the dawning realization that money hadn't saved her tonight. You don't need a report, he said. You need to change how you listen. Her jaw tightened. That's not how organizations work. It's how buildings work, he replied. Ignore stress long enough and they fail. A gust of wind rattled a loose sign overhead, punctuating the point. Noah tugged his sleeve. Dad, I'm tired. He crouched, pulling the boy close. We're almost home. Vivian watched, something softening around the edges of her expression despite herself. You left a different life, she said carefully, didn't you? He rose slowly. That's not tonight's story. Then what is? She asked. He met her gaze. That competence doesn't announce itself, and dignity shouldn't have to beg. For a moment, she looked like she might argue. Then she didn't. Go home, she said finally. Someone will contact you. He nodded once and turned away, boots crunching into snow. As they walked toward the bus stop, Noah leaned against him, weight trusting. The city hummed, unaware how close a disaster had come. Did she mean it? Noah asked quietly. She meant some of it, he said. That's a start. They waited under a flickering streetlight, breath clouding the air. His phone buzzed once, then again. Unknown numbers, missed calls stacking up. He ignored them. If this moment has you hooked, make sure you're subscribed, because what comes next flips the power even further. The bus arrived with a hiss. They climbed aboard, warmth wrapping around them like a held breath finally released. He took a seat near the back, Noah curled against his side, already drifting. Through the window, the Hartwell Grand receded. Lights dimmed, facade intact but altered forever in his mind. He rested his chin on his son's head. Exhaustion settling deep. Tonight wasn't victory. Not yet. It was exposure, the kind that made systems uncomfortable and people defensive. And somewhere behind the polished statements already forming, accountability was circling. The bus rolled on, carrying them away from chandeliers and cameras, back to a quieter life that suddenly felt less small. He closed his eyes, listening to the steady rhythm of the road, knowing the real confrontation hadn't happened yet. Not by a long shot. The bus rocked gently as it pulled away from the curb, heater rattling, windows fogging from the sudden press of warmth. He shifted, settling Noah more securely against his chest, feeling the boy's breathing even out as sleep finally claimed him. Streetlights slid past in a tired rhythm. With each one, the noise of the hotel felt farther away, like a bad echo finally losing shape. His phone buzzed again. This time, he glanced down. Unknown, unknown. Then a name he recognized. Elias Crown. He didn't answer. A woman across the aisle watched him with open curiosity, eyes flicking to the scuffed boots, the sleeping child. She smiled, small and kind, then looked away as if granting him privacy. The bus hit a pothole, jostling them. Noah stirred, then relaxed again when his arm tightened instinctively. He exhaled, slow, counting with the rhythm of the engine, grounding himself the way he'd learned years ago when everything else spun. He hadn't planned on tonight becoming anything more than awkward. Rejection he could handle. Humiliation, too, if it ended there. But buildings didn't care about plans. And neither did truth once it started pushing through. At the next stop, 2 men boarded, voices loud. One held up his phone, scrolling. Telling you it was wild, he said. Some maintenance guy took over like he ran the place. His chest tightened. Yeah, the other replied. My sister was there. Said the CEO looked like she swallowed glass. They laughed, not cruelly, more in disbelief. He looked out the window, jaw setting. This was how it started, not with press releases, but with people talking. The bus rolled on. By the time they stepped off near their apartment, snow had started again, light and steady. He carried Noah the last block, breath puffing, muscles protesting now that the adrenaline was gone. Inside, the apartment was quiet, familiar. He kicked the door shut with his heel, shrugging out of his coat one-handed. The fridge hummed. The radiator clicked. Home. He laid Noah down gently, pulling the blanket up, brushing hair from the boy's forehead. "You did good," he whispered, though the child was already asleep. In the kitchen, he finally checked his phone. Voicemails stacked up. Messages. A missed call from a local number he didn't recognize, followed by a text. "We need to speak, urgently. V. Hartwell." He stared at it for a long moment, then set the phone face down on the counter. He poured a glass of water, hand steady, mind not. Tonight had cracked something open, and he could already feel the pressure building behind it. A knock sounded at the door. He froze. Another knock, firmer. He moved quietly, peering through the peephole. Elias stood in the hallway, coat askew, eyes red-rimmed. He opened the door just enough. "You shouldn't be here." "I know," Elias said quickly. "I won't stay. People are asking questions. Real ones." He leaned against the wall, exhaustion etched deep. "They pulled the reports. Yours. All of them. Silence. They're time-stamped. Detailed. Accurate." Elias swallowed. "You were right. About everything." He nodded once. Vindication didn't feel like triumph. It felt heavy. "They're calling in external inspectors," Elias continued. "And the board wants to know why a maintenance supervisor understood the structure better than their consultants." He didn't answer. Elias looked down at his hands. "I told them you used to, before." His gaze sharpened. "You told them what?" "That you weren't always maintenance," Elias said quietly. "That you led retrofit projects. Government ones." The words settled. "Irreversible. You didn't have the right," he said. Not angry, just firm. "I know," Elias replied. "But it's out now. And Vivian, she's trying to contain it." A humorless breath escaped him. "She won't?" Elias nodded. "No, she won't." Footsteps echoed in the hallway, neighbors passing, lives uninterrupted. Elias straightened. "They'll come for you. Interviews, offers, pressure." He closed the door a little more. "I'm not interested." Elias hesitated. "You should be. This could change things for you. For your son." He thought of Noah counting steps, trusting him completely. It already has. Elias managed a tired smile. "I'm sorry it took a near disaster to see you." He met his eyes. "Just make sure it doesn't take another." Elias nodded and stepped back. "Good night." The door clicked shut. He leaned against it for a moment, head tipping back, breath finally shaking loose. The discovery was out there now, uncontained. His past, his competence, the truth Vivian had dismissed. He walked back to the kitchen, picked up his phone, and turned it face up. Another text had arrived. "We need to talk." Not as CEO and staff, as two adults who saw the same thing break. He stared at the words, then glanced toward the bedroom where Noah slept. Safe. The battle lines were being redrawn, and this time they weren't where anyone expected. Morning crept in gray and quiet, the kind that made the city feel held together by habit alone. He stood at the kitchen sink, coffee cooling untouched, listening to the radiator knock itself awake. The phone sat on the counter. Face up now, unread messages stacked like a dare. Noah shuffled out in socks, hair sticking up. "Is it a school day?" He checked the clock. "Yeah, but we'll walk. Take it slow." The boy nodded, rubbing his eyes. "Everyone's gonna know, aren't they?" He paused, surprised. "Know what? That you fixed the big building," Noah said simply. He smiled faintly. Maybe. Noah considered that, then shrugged. That's okay. Outside, the air smelled like snow and exhaust. They walked hand in hand, the city louder now, people moving with purpose. A woman at the corner cafe glanced up from her phone and stared a second too long. By the time he dropped Noah at school, his own phone had buzzed twice more. He ignored it again and headed toward work, boots crunching, mind steady. The Hartwell Grand looked different in daylight. Less magical, more mechanical. Barricades marked off sections, inspectors in hard hats milling where donors had stood hours earlier. The service entrance yawned open like a mouth that finally had something to say. Inside, eyes followed him, not the dismissive glances from before. These were cautious, curious, respectful. "Morning," a housekeeper said softly as he passed. "Morning," he replied. Elias met him near the maintenance bay, tie gone, sleeves rolled. "They're here," he said. "Structural, city, insurance." He nodded. "I figured. And Vivian's coming down." "Of course she is." They walked together, past the familiar tools and humming panels, toward a temporary conference setup carved out of a service corridor. Power had shifted here, folding tables, exposed pipes, the real bones of the building visible. Vivian stood at the far end, coat off, posture controlled but wary. She turned when she saw him, eyes sharper now, less performative. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I work here," he replied. "For now." A flicker crossed her face. "We'll address that." Inspectors gathered, notebooks out. One cleared his throat. "We'd like you to walk us through what you observed." He did, calmly, precisely. Stress points, load paths, ignored warnings. He didn't embellish. He didn't soften it either. Vivian listened, jaw tight. Every so often she opened her mouth, then closed it again as facts boxed her in. When he finished, the lead inspector nodded. "Your assessment aligns with our preliminary findings." The words landed heavy. "So," Vivian said carefully, "what happens now?" The inspector glanced between them. "Now, accountability." A silence followed, thick as dust. Vivian exhaled, slow. "I built my brand on control," she said. "Not quite to anyone. Last night showed me the limits of that." He watched her closely. This wasn't humility yet. It was reckoning's shadow. "You were right," she said finally, meeting his gaze. "And I was wrong." It wasn't an apology, but it was close. "Words are easy," he said. "Systems are harder." Her lips pressed together. "Then help me fix them." There it was, the pivot. "I don't work in optics," he replied. "I work in outcomes." A murmur rippled through the inspectors. "Fine," she said. "Outcome, then. What do you need?" He glanced around the corridor. The pipes, the wiring, the space where power never posed for cameras, authority to make safety calls without being overruled by image, and respect for the people who keep this place standing. Elias nodded quickly. "That's overdue." Vivian hesitated, then nodded once. Granted. The concession cost her. It showed. Later, as inspectors dispersed, she lingered. "You could do more than maintenance," she said quietly. "Lead a safety overhaul. I'll make it official." He shook his head. "Not until the investigation's done." Her eyes narrowed, then softened. "You don't trust me." "I trust physics," he said, "and people who prove they've learned." She let out a short breath. "Fair." As he turned to leave, she added, "Last night, I shouldn't have humiliated you." He stopped, just long enough. "No, you shouldn't have." She absorbed that, nodding. "I'm sorry." The word hung there, fragile but real. He walked back toward the maintenance bay, the hum of the building steady now. Around him, co-workers watched, some with smiles, some with awe. He picked up his tools, grounding himself in weight and purpose. This wasn't the victory, not yet, but the groundwork was laid. And above them all, the building listened. The maintenance bay smelled like oil and hot metal, a comfort he hadn't realized he'd missed until now. He rolled his shoulders, tension easing as familiar sounds settled him. The steady whir of fans, the click of relays doing what they were meant to do when respected. Word moved fast after that meeting. Not through memos, but through looks, through the way people stepped aside instead of past him. Through the quiet thank yous muttered when no executives were around to hear. He focused on the work, because that was how you kept your footing when the ground shifted. He logged readings, double-checked braces, ran diagnostics that should have been done months ago. Every number told the same story. This place had survived because it got lucky, and because someone listened in time. His phone buzzed on the workbench. Vivienne. He let it buzz. A coworker leaned in, lowering her voice. They're saying the board's split. Half want to make you the headline hero. Half want you quiet. He didn't look up. Heroes get used. She nodded, understanding more than he'd expected. By midday, inspectors returned with binders thick enough to bruise. Questions came. Direct, technical, respectful. He answered them all. Each confirmation tightened the net around decisions made for image instead of safety. In the afternoon, Elias pulled him aside. Media's circling, he said. Local, national. They want your story. I don't have one, he replied. Just facts. Elias smiled tiredly. Facts are enough. In the break room, someone had left the TV on. A news anchor spoke gravely about a narrowly avoided holiday disaster at the Hartwell Grand. Footage rolled, flashing lights, bundled children, a blurred shot of him carrying Noah out. His jaw tightened. Dad, a small voice said behind him. He turned. Noah stood there, backpack on, eyes wide. School let out early. Grandma brought me. His mother waved from the hall, worry etched deep. I saw the news. He crouched, hugging the boy tight. You okay? Noah nodded. Everyone keeps asking if you're famous now. He snorted softly. Let's hope not. They sat together, Noah swinging his legs while he finished paperwork. The presence grounded him, a reminder of what mattered when offers and attention started flying. Vivian appeared in the doorway, pausing when she saw the boy. May I? He considered, then nodded. She stepped in, heels quiet here. The board meets tonight, she said. They want a plan, with your input. My input's already in your inbox, he replied. She smiled faintly. They want it in person, he sighed. Why? Because they're afraid, she said honestly, and because they know the cameras are watching. He met her gaze. Then tell them the truth. I intend to, she said, but it helps if you're there. Noah looked between them. Is she the lady from last night? Vivian stiffened, then nodded. I am. You were mean, Noah said. Not accusing, just factual. The words landed harder than any report. Vivian swallowed. I was, and I'm sorry. Noah studied her, then shrugged. Okay. The simplicity stunned her. As she left, she paused. I'll expect you at 6. He didn't answer. Later, walking home, the city felt different. Less indifferent, more watchful. People recognized him now, some nodding, some staring. He kept his head down, Noah's hand warm in his. If this story has you hooked, subscribe now because what happens next forces the truth into the open where it can't be buried. At home, he laid out his tools on the table. Methodical. The old multi-tool sat among them, worn smooth from years of use. Noah picked it up, turning it over. This saved the building? The boy asked. It helped, he said, but listening saved it. Noah nodded, solemn. I want to listen like that. He smiled, heart tightening. As evening fell, he stood by the window, watching lights blink on across the city. The boardroom waited. So did the cameras. So did the reckoning. He slipped the multi-tool into his pocket, not as armor, but as reminder. Tonight wasn't about promotion. It was about exposure. And he was ready. The boardroom sat at the top of the hotel like a crown, all glass and polished wood, a place designed to remind people who mattered. He arrived early, standing alone near the windows. City lights spread beneath him like a living circuit board. He could feel the building here too, not strained, not angry, just waiting. The doors opened behind him, voices spilling in, board members, legal counsel, consultants whose suits cost more than his monthly rent. They slowed when they saw him, recalibrating expectations. Vivian entered last. She didn't take the head seat immediately. That alone told him something. "Let's begin," she said once everyone settled. A lawyer launched into language about liability and exposure. Slides flickered. Timelines, red arrows, words like mitigation and narrative control. He listened without interrupting, hands resting loosely on the back of the chair in front of him. Eventually, someone gestured toward him. "We'd like to hear from maintenance." The phrasing was deliberate. He stepped forward. "My name's Adrian Cole," he said evenly. "I won't talk about optics. I'll talk about causes." A few brows lifted. He walked them through it again, slower this time. Where the decisions stacked, where warnings were minimized, where authority overruled expertise because it came from the wrong floor. "You're saying this was inevitable," a board member said. "No," he replied. "I'm saying it was preventable." Silence stretched. Vivian watched him closely, fingers interlaced. When he finished, she spoke. "He's right, and the responsibility doesn't stop at management." A murmur rippled. "You're volunteering yourself?" someone asked. "I'm acknowledging reality," she said. "This system rewards image over substance. Last night exposed that." He hadn't expected that. Not fully. A consultant cleared his throat. "Public perception isn't the priority," Vivian cut in. "Safety is." Another pause. Longer this time. The board chair leaned back. "What do you want, Mr. Cole?" There it was. The real question. He met their gaze one by one. Transparency, independent oversight, and structural authority given to people who understand the building, not just the brand. "And your role?" the chair pressed. He exhaled slowly. "I'll advise. Temporarily. Until safeguards are in place." Vivian turned to him. "You could do more." He shook his head. "I won't be the fig leaf that lets this continue quietly." The words landed clean. Undeniable. The chair nodded slowly. "That's inconvenient." "Yes," he said. "It usually is." After deliberation that felt longer than it was, the board agreed. Audits, disclosures, leadership review. Not everything, but enough that it couldn't be spun as nothing. When the meeting broke, Vivian lingered again. "You didn't have to protect me in there," she said quietly. "I didn't," he replied. "I protected the truth." She studied him, then nodded. "Fair." As he turned to leave, she spoke again. "There's a dinner tonight. Public. Press will be there." "I know," he said. "I won't be." Her lips curved faintly. "I was hoping you'd say that." He paused. "Why?" "Because I need to face it without hiding behind you," she said. "That's part of learning." That surprised him. He left the boardroom, elevator humming softly as it descended past floors where power felt different now, less absolute. Outside, night air met him sharp and clean. At home, Noah waited up, homework spread across the table. "Did you fix it?" He smiled. "Some of it." The boy nodded, satisfied. "That's good." Later, after Noah slept, his phone buzzed again. A single message from Vivian. "Thank you for not letting me escape." He stared at it, then set the phone down. The exposure was complete. The preparation done. What remained was the public reckoning, and it was coming fast. The plaza outside the hotel was already packed when he arrived, lights blazing against the early night. Reporters clustered behind barriers, microphones angled like spears, their breath fogging as they talked over one another. The Hartwell Grand loomed behind them, windows glowing, trying to look untouched. He stood off to the side at first, hands in his pockets, the familiar weight of the multi-tool pressing against his thigh. Inside, the gala's aftermath had been repackaged into a holiday address, Vivian's idea of facing the storm head-on. She stepped onto the temporary stage, composed but stripped of last night's sheen. Applause flickered, uncertain. Cameras locked on. "Thank you for coming," she began, voice steady. "Last night we experienced a failure that should never have happened." A murmur rolled through the crowd. She continued, laying out the facts, partial truths at first, then fuller ones. Structural stress, ignored warnings, a system built to prioritize appearance over safety. Then she stopped. "There's someone who deserves to be heard directly," she said. "Because without him, we'd be talking about casualties, not corrections." Heads turned. Her gaze found him in the shadows. "Please," she said, quieter now. "Come up here." A reporter spotted him and gasped. "That's him." The path opened, phones lifting, whispers spreading fast. He walked forward, heart steady, every step deliberate. This wasn't about bravery. It was about clarity. He joined her on stage. The lights were hot, unforgiving. He could see Noah's face in his mind, counting steps, trusting him. Vivian stepped back, giving him the center without ceremony. "I'm not here for praise," he said, voice carrying without strain. "I'm here because what happened last night wasn't an accident." The crowd stilled. He explained it again, but this time without technical shielding. Plain language, undeniable cause and effect. Decorations overloaded supports, reports ignored. Authorities silenced expertise because it came from the wrong place. A reporter shouted, "Are you saying management chose image over safety?" "Yes," he replied simply. Another voice cut in. "And you're just maintenance?" He nodded. "That's my job title." A ripple of disbelief ran through the crowd, but before that, he added, "I spent years reinforcing public buildings so they wouldn't fail when people needed them most. I left because my son needed me more than a title did." Cameras zoomed tighter. Vivian stepped forward again. "I rejected him publicly," she said, voice tight but clear, "because I thought status equaled worth. I was wrong." The admission landed harder than any accusation. Questions exploded. Liability. Resignations. Consequences. She answered what she could. When she couldn't, she said so. Each refusal to spin felt like another crack in something brittle and overdue. A reporter turned to him. "Why speak now? You could have stayed quiet, taken a promotion." He glanced at the hotel behind them, because quiet is how this almost killed someone. The crowd erupted. Applause, shouts, the messy sound of recognition. From the edge of the plaza, he spotted Noah with his mother, bundled up, eyes wide. The boy raised a hand and gave a small wave. He waved back, heart tightening. Vivian noticed. Her voice softened when she spoke again. "Last night, I learned that dignity doesn't wear a dress code, and competence doesn't ask permission." She turned to him, lowering her voice, the microphone still catching every word. "I can't undo what I did, but I can ask you to help rebuild what I broke." He met her gaze. This was the moment people would remember. The ask, the optics, the narrative hook. He shook his head. "I'll help rebuild systems," he said. "Not egos." A beat passed. She nodded. "Then rebuild them." The answer satisfied the crowd more than a fairy tale ever could. As the address ended, security moved in, ushering questions away. The plaza buzzed, alive with a story that wouldn't stay contained. She stepped closer to him, out of the glare just enough that the cameras lost their intimacy. Her voice dropped. "When I asked you on that blind date," she said, "I thought I was choosing carefully." "You were choosing safely," he replied. She smiled, rueful. "Yes." They stood there, the noise swelling again, the hotel glowing behind them. Public exposure complete, poetic justice delivered. And yet, something unfinished lingered between them, quieter than applause, heavier than consequence. He stepped down from the stage, the night air cool on his face, and walked toward his son. Whatever came next, the truth was no longer hidden. And it had changed everything. The plaza slowly emptied, the crowd thinning as reporters chased fresh angles and producers packed up cables. He stayed close to Noah, one hand resting on the boy's shoulder, anchoring himself in the small, solid weight of what mattered. "You were loud," Noah said, eyes shining. He smiled. "I had to be." Vivian lingered behind the barricades, watching the last cameras roll away. Without the stage lights, she looked smaller somehow, but steadier too, like someone who'd finally stopped performing and started standing. City officials arrived next, facing serious notebooks already open. Statements were taken, timelines confirmed. Each question pressed the truth deeper into the public record, where it couldn't be massaged or buried. By the time it was over, exhaustion settled into his bones. "Let's go," he murmured. And Noah nodded, already leaning in. They walked a block before Vivian caught up, heels clicking softer now. "Thank you," she said again. "No microphones this time." "For not turning it into a spectacle." He stopped. It was already one. She accepted that, nodding. "I'm stepping back from day-to-day control." The board insisted. So did I. That surprised him. "You're serious?" "I have to be," she said. "Otherwise, nothing I said up there matters." He studied her, searching for cracks, finding resolve instead. "That's the right move." She hesitated, then gestured toward Noah. "May I?" He looked down. Noah shrugged. "It's okay." Vivian crouched slightly, meeting the boy's eyes. "I'm sorry," she said simply. "I was wrong to judge your dad." Noah considered her, then nodded once. "He listens." Her breath hitched a soft, unguarded sound. "Yes," she said, "he does." They parted there, no promises, no neat bows. In the days that followed, the ripple spread. Investigations widened. Consultants resigned quietly. Staff spoke up. The service corridors buzzed with something new, respect that didn't need permission. At work, he kept doing what he'd always done, checking systems, fixing what others overlooked. Only now, people listened when he spoke. An offer came, formal and careful. Advisory role, temporary. He accepted it on his terms. At home, life stayed simple. Homework, dinners, bedtime routines. Noah slept easier now, nightmares fading. One evening, his phone buzzed with a message. "Can I see you?" No agenda. Vivienne. He stared at it longer this time. Outside, the city hummed, resilient and flawed. He thought of the blind date, the laughter, the whisper that hadn't happened yet. He typed back, "Tomorrow, public place." Her reply came fast. Of course. He set the phone down, heart steady. The injustice had been confronted. The system exposed. What came next wouldn't be about power. It would be about choice. The cafe sat on a corner where buses sighed and people hurried past, the kind of place nobody curated for status. He arrived early, chose a table by the window, and ordered hot chocolate for Noah before anything else. The boy swung his legs, watching steam curl into the air. "She's coming?" Noah asked. "Yes," he said. "Just to talk." Noah nodded, satisfied. He trusted that answer. Vivian arrived without an entourage. Coat simple, hair loose, power muted by choice rather than loss. She paused when she saw the child, then smiled softly and approached. "Hi," she said. Noah looked at her, then at his dad. "She's different now." Vivian let out a quiet breath. "I hope so." They sat. Outside, a bus rumbled past, shaking the window just enough to remind him where real movement came from. "I won't take much of your time," she said. "I know how valuable it is." "You didn't before," he replied gently. She nodded, accepting it. "No, I didn't." Silence settled, not awkward, just honest. "I spent years believing control was the same as strength," she continued. "That if I curated everything carefully enough, nothing could go wrong. Last night proved how wrong that was. He listened. That mattered more than words. You didn't just save people, she said. You showed me the cost of my arrogance. Noah sipped his chocolate, then looked up. You were mean because you were scared. Vivian blinked, startled, then smiled sadly. Yes, I think I was. The boy nodded, as if that settled it. Vivian turned back to him. I'm rebuilding the company. Slowly. With oversight. Without hiding behind image. She hesitated. I don't expect you to be part of that. He studied her, weighing truth against momentum. Good. She smiled faintly. Still, I didn't come here as a CEO today. He waited. I came because I rejected you without knowing you, she said. Because I confused status with value. And because when everything fell apart, you stood between a child and a ceiling without hesitation. Noah's fingers curled into his sleeve again, small and warm. Vivian's voice lowered, not for secrecy, but intimacy. I don't know what shape my life takes next, but I know who I want beside me while I figure it out. She leaned closer, careful, respectful. The cafe noise swallowed the moment, ordinary and perfect. Will you be my husband? She whispered. The words didn't land like a fairy tale. They landed like a choice. He didn't answer right away. He looked at Noah. The boy's eyes searched his face. Then he smiled. She listens now. He laughed softly, emotion pressing tight behind his ribs. She does. Vivian held still, not demanding, not selling. I won't rescue you, he said, and I won't disappear into your world. I wouldn't ask you to, she replied. I'd meet you in yours. He nodded once, then yes, but slowly. Relief crossed her face, real and unguarded. Outside, the city moved on, indifferent to vows whispered over hot chocolate. Inside, something stronger than status took root. Later, walking home, Noah skipped ahead, humming. You fixed two things, he said. The building and the lady. He smiled. She fixed herself. That night after Noah slept, he stood by the window again, city lights blinking like quiet witnesses. The injustice that started it all had been named, corrected, exposed, not with revenge, with truth. And if this story stayed with you, if you felt that quiet shift where dignity wins without shouting, then ask me for the next story title. Subscribe and don't miss our next story. Single Dad was thrown out of a charity gala until the crowd realized who he really was. Trust me, you'll feel it. And tell me in the comments, what injustice should we tackle next?